Let's go! Today we're chatting LSU versus Florida State. Can the offense actually get the ball moving versus a really good Seminole defense? And we're also going to talk about Jared Verse, right? Are we overrating his impact on this game? I think we are just a little bit, because I do think the Seminoles have a more impactful player on their defense last year, and he's getting really no national love. This is a really good play design right here by Mike Denbrock. Eventually, Mason Taylor does open himself up over the middle right here on this shallow over route, and, well, protection isn't the best, but it's pretty good for him to deliver this football. But there was a lot of things like this in this game last year where Jayden missed a throw but still had a great run to go along with it, and for good reason. His offensive line was all over the place. He had bad snaps that he had to deal with throughout the game, and one of the big things you're going to take away from watching this film study is how poorly LSU picked out their first-team offensive line. I felt last year Jared Verse had a dominant game because he had very dominant matchups, right? He was going up against a true freshman playing in his first-ever game, Will Campbell, and he was going up against a right tackle who is currently playing at Tulane, okay? And this right here is something that Mike Denbrock really wanted to emphasize this year. Making plays where he can have his guys run after the catch. So right here, Malik makes a really good play on this ball. It's a perfect throw by Jayden, and he's able to avoid this linebacker, and this actually should have been a big gain, but once again, a true freshman here, Mason Taylor, missed the block on this DB right here, and watch this play by Malik Neighbors. He actually did not get tackled here, and he was able to fall forward for a few extra yards here and pick up this first down. I want to talk about the guy that I'm really scared about. It is not Jared Verse. It is Fabien Lovett, their defensive tackle. So we're going to talk about Florida State's defensive theory here.
For the most part, FSU preferred to keep what I call a light box. This means that when they're facing a standard formation, in this case an 11 personnel grouping with one tight end and one running back, FSU usually only had 6 men close to the line of scrimmage between the tackles. A quick way to count these numbers is to look at the safeties. If they have 2 back, they're lightly light in the box. This creates obvious problems for the defense from a purely numerical perspective. They simply don't have enough players to take on all of the blockers and still have one guy left over to tackle the ball carrier. So why might a team do this? Firstly, if you didn't do this, you would essentially force you to give one-on-ones to the outside, since this central safety couldn't help with both outside receivers.
So that was a great X's and O's Twitter account. Just a brilliant breakdown on Florida State's light box philosophy. So here they have 6 guys in the box. It looks like 7, but that's because LSU is in a bunch formation, so the nickel here is closer to the box than normal. You have a press corner up here, a corner right here, and then there's 2 safeties off the screen. So like he said in that breakdown, if there are 2 safeties back here, we have got to be able to run on this defensive formation. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in here going up against their 7-ish. So really 6. And always you have to account for JAYDEN Daniels' rushing ability. So you think we're going to run for a lot of yards here, but guess what happens? Fabien Lovett happens, right? He dominated us last year, okay? So he jacks up Miles Frazier, who's going to be starting in this game. And look at this. All right, he is just controlling this line of scrimmage. This defensive end right here does a really good job squeezing this play down versus Will Campbell. And the funny thing is Jared Verse is over here. I think Jared Verse as a run defender is okay at best. I think you could run at Jared Verse, but you see that Lovett is just controlling this line of scrimmage. They're squeezing this run play down, and even though we had a numbers advantage on them and we had some decent blocks on the backside, you notice we just couldn't run on them. And it was essentially like this all game long. Alrighty, so I want you to remember this sequence, okay? Once again, do you remember, you saw what the X's and O's YouTube account showed you that Florida State likes to stay in a too high safety look. So we're going to try and run on this 2 times in a row. First time, it's a quarterback draw with a lead blocker, okay? We do a good job getting these defensive ends upfield, But notice Lovett. He's a very high football IQ player. He stays in his rush lane, and we really have nowhere to run this thing if you're JAYDEN Daniels. Jamie Robinson, their best player in the secondary, is no longer there, so maybe LSU could take advantage of him not being in the game. He had a huge open field tackle on Jayden later in this game to prevent a touchdown, and Jamie Robinson makes the play so his corner can scoop JAYDEN Daniels. Now, Mike Denbrock sees, okay, Florida State in the red zone, you're going to give us essentially a 5-man box. Again, this is the same exact alignment, and I'm going to be honest with you about this Florida State defense. They are not exotic. They play a style of defense that basically says our 4 guys are better than your 5 guys. And guess what? They were last year. 2 high safety look, 5-man box. We have got to be able to run on this. We just do. But watch this Glenn Dorsey-esque kind of play. So we motion Mason Taylor in here. So now we have 6 guys against their 4 guys essentially here. But watch this play by Fabien Lovett. Okay? This is just the nastiest play I saw a defensive tackle make all last year. He threw a really good player in Miles Frazier 3 yards in this direction to where it actually ran over another one of our offensive linemen, and that is just gross. That is just absolutely gross. So we have got to play bigger than they are in the trenches. So can LSU actually beat Florida State without running the football well? I think that they can. More on that in just a second. But for right now, I want to show you the 4 games where I felt just watching Florida State's defense on film, the 4 games I thought they really got exposed to a certain extent. It was Louisville, Florida, Oklahoma, and Clemson. Now, I'm going to let you guess what all 4 of these teams have in common, but I wanted to show you 2 deep breakdowns we've already done. Please go join our PHL Patreon if you love independent, fun film breakdowns such as this one. You get extra bonuses, including these very deep breakdowns, and you already see that the only aspect of defense where Florida State struggled was their rush defense. They were 10th in the ACC, but first in all the other categories. Now, you take a look at these 4 teams, the one thing that they have in common is a dual-threat quarterback, right? Louisville and Florida had Richardson and Cunningham, elite runners. Oklahoma and Clemson had Uiagalelei and Gabriel, very good runners, and Jayden is a better runner than any of them. But one thing all 4 of these teams had in common, well, in 3 of these games, Lovett didn't play. Yes, he was hurt, and you could see on film how they were able to gash him. And the only game he did play was the Florida game, and I wanted to show you this run from the Florida game that allowed them to tie it late. And you'll see here, it's just a simple handoff to the left. I wouldn't mind seeing LSU run out of pistol. Louisville did a lot of that in their success versus this run defense. But there is an asterisk next to this Florida run. Even though Lovett played in this game, he wasn't in on this play.
I watch it a lot going out there, just to get a grasp of how they played us last year. But we're night and day better on what we were last year at this time. Going back watching the tape, it's kind of heartbreaking, disheartening going out there, seeing how many plays we left out there, how we could have really adjusted and played better. But that's what you learn from it. Now we're going in more prepared.
Look, you're going to lose 5 or 6 plays on an average this year, it looks like, with the clock running after first downs. And so if you have to be a little bit more specific to find a Jared Verse so he does not ruin a play, then that's what we're going to have to do. And when we get into games where there is a game wrecker, and he is a game wrecker.
So, yeah, Jared Verse is the real deal. I just feel, though, as you saw with both of those clips during Jayden and Brian Kelly's quotes there, it was Lovett who actually blew both of those plays up in the passing game right up the gut. And this is one of the few times we were able to block him. This was a good job. We actually brought a running back in over to help. There was nothing open on this 3rd and 7. And this is what we want Jayden to do, right? If there's nothing open, actually tuck and run, right? On one of those clips, you saw Jack Besh was open on the corner. But Jayden could throw it because there was just so much pressure with Lovett. So You know, it was also very encouraging to hear Jayden say that he's watched the film from this game and he saw how many big opportunities were missed. And we actually did a film study on this exact play. This is a jet sweep motion where Malik Neighbors is coming across the way. And the only reason we did not actually pitch this football here on this jet sweep motion was because Garrett Dellinger had another bad snap. He had about 4 or 5 of them in this game. If this was actually on time, you will see that this play got Jared Verse off balance, right? We gave our tight end a very easy block here on Jared Verse. We have him sealed to the inside. So this was our best blocked rep on Jared Verse. And you saw what Malik did on the jet sweep versus Purdue. This is probably a touchdown right here with Malik Neighbors out of the slot, but instead JAYDEN Daniels. This is one of the best runs he had all season, and he had obviously a gazillion of them. You saw that Jayden was still able to make a play. But I think this is going to be an adjustment on this very next play where LSU also should have had a touchdown to Malik Neighbors out of the slot, but this was a huge miss, if you ask me, okay? So we get the light box that we were looking for, but the thing is, if you have 2 safeties deep, it's really hard to hit things over the top. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to throw intermediate stuff over the middle, right? And as you'll see here, we decided on these double slants to read this outside in, okay? So go listen to our Jeray Jenkins interview from earlier this year. He broke this down for us, actually. If you are taught as a quarterback to read outside in and Jeray is this open, you should throw it, okay? You should. But the adjustment, I think this is one of the adjustments Jayden was talking about here. We should have actually read these double slants inside out. Because if we did, you'll see right here, Mason Taylor running this go carried this linebacker out of his zone, and also pre-snap, we could have seen that this slot corner here had outside leverage on Malik Neighbors, so we want to throw this one instead of this one. And if we hit Malik Neighbors in stride right here, bang, guess what? He's probably catching that and scoring, okay? And as you guys know, later on in this drive, we eventually had a field goal, ironically blocked by Jared Verse. Boom! I'm looking at you. Now, I want to be honest with you. I think the LSU offense has a really good shot of doing something really special. Once again, that was not a great snap in the background. And once again, we struggled to block their front. And we also just struggled our running backs breaking arm tackles. But that was actually just a really good run by Noah Cain to fall forward. And one thing you'll see on this drive in the third quarter is LSU actually increased the tempo, right? They're down by 2 scores here, and we really do need to push the pace. And you saw LSU's offense really begin to have some success, right? A really good route right here by Kyron Lacey. And look, if you're getting the football out this quickly and throwing underneath their too high shell, guess what? You don't have to worry about plays getting blown up in the backfield, okay? So I'm going to share with you a few thoughts, all right? Every play up to this point in the film study that you saw was in the second quarter of the game. Now, why is that relevant? Well, LSU's best quarter all season was the second quarter. They averaged 10 points per game. That was a top 25 mark in all of college football. So, look, Verse and in particular Lovett did a good job blowing the plays up, but it was on us as well. I love Malik Neighbors in the slot. I hope to see him in the slot a lot in this game versus Florida State. Our success rate splits with Malik in the slot compared to not on all plays was ridiculous, right? And you saw right there, Malik point to JAYDEN Daniels, hey, this corner has inside leverage on me, work all the way backside, and Jayden does. He goes through all the progressions and eventually makes this cross hash throw to a wide open Malik Neighbors. So you see, we're playing with tempo. Malik is helping orchestrate this offense from the slot, and Jayden is just getting this offense cooking. One thing about Florida State's defense is sometimes they would get really slow when it comes to getting their calls in, right? So you see only about 15 seconds run right here, and you get another pitch and catch throw right here to a wide open Mason Taylor. So I like us playing with tempo in this game, and we get 2 good blocks right here by Kyron and Malik to help Mason get upfield. So, look, I think the LSU offense is going to have a great day. Do I think the run game needs to be established? kind of, sort of, yes. I don't want Jayden to just do all the heavy lifting like he did in last year's game. And I don't want too much to be on his plate in this game because this is such a tough defense to face up front. So with our offensive line being better, with the snaps hopefully being on target, Charles Turner's really good at that, and with better right tackle play, and Will Campbell not playing in his absolute first game, I think we'll do a lot better versus Jared Verse. And I think this is a guy that Florida State is going to miss, and I wanted to save him for the end. It's Jamie Robinson, right? This is a tackle I was referencing earlier. I never saw Jayden get brought down in the open field with this much space. It's him versus Jamie for a tutty right here. And look at this tackle. Okay, Jamie Robinson's in the NFL right now because of plays like that. So, Florida State's not going to have him, and he was the one that made a lot of the calls and kept them, in check. Something else that Florida State fans would also attest to is you can hit them over the top, right? DJ Uiagalelei was able to do it, and in particular, Anthony Richardson, who was overall a good deep ball thrower, he was able to tear Florida State with explosive plays over the top as well. So we should be able to cook in the passing game, but I know a big point of emphasis for LSU is doing what we showed you with the run game, but also hitting explosive plays while hitting players in stride in the intermediate, which is something we have seen the LSU offense bring up time and time again. Now, I understand I'm telling you on the Patreon, you should sign up because there was one thing about that Florida run that LSU did a really good job of, and they need to do it versus Florida. Link is Florida State. Link is down below, okay? Now, don't forget the live stream schedule. We're actually about to start one up with a former Florida Stater, Mr. James Robinson. So we hope, Mr. James Coleman, we hope to see you there, okay? It's Power Hour LSU, boom! And tonight, it's barbecue chicken night. Ooh, let's go!